Need I say more? Five Nights at Freddy's is a cultural phenomenon in the world of video games, taking the internet and our childhoods by storm. It was a fresh and exciting take on the horror genre as we knew it, essentially being a point-and-click jump-scare simulator. The player is completely stationary throughout its runtime, having only game knowledge and the muscle memory to defend his or herself, with nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, no melee weapons, plasmids, or roundabout finger guns to fight off the iconic killer robots. You must have confidence in your survivability and face all of your fears head on. Not only was this bare bones, simple gameplay loop surprisingly addictive, but it was also extremely lucrative. The mastermind behind Five Nights at Freddy's, Scott Cawthon, did not hesitate to strike when the iron was hot. He eventually unleashed countless merch like shirts and toys, writing books, creating spin-off games, a fucking movie, and of course, releasing 6 sequels to the original title within 4 years. Dozens of fan-made knockoffs would come out of the woodwork shortly after, such as Five Nights at Treasure Island, Five Nights at Candy's, One Night at Flumpty's, Junior's, and my personal favorite, The Joy of Creation. The first installment of the mainline series was released on August 8th, 2014, meaning that in a few months of this video being posted, Five Nights at Freddy's will officially turn 10 years old. Where did the goddamn time go? It seems like yesterday that I was a freshman in high school, clinically depressed with no ambition in life, learning all the ins and outs of the certified hood classic, Five Nights at Fuckboys.
Devour my hot bird ass Freddy.
Or watching Markiplier scream his lungs out as he conquered each new hardest difficulty mode the games had to offer. Dissecting every game theory lore video on the story and characters, even beating the Five Nights at Freddy's custom zombies map on Call of Duty World at War PC. And the craziest thing is, I can keep going. It really was the next hottest thing since the Slender Amnesia craze that was running rampant for a long time. It captured the attention of millions of kiddos around the world, most of them being obsessed over who perpetrated the bite of 87, and you know, drawing tons of porn depicting Toy Chica. Oh my god, what the fuck is that? But anyway, I'm sure whoever's watching this video knows the impact FNAF had on gaming by now. But still, I felt the need and desire to give this gem its flowers, as well as educate the younger people who are unaware of this Frankenstein fuckfest. What I really want to focus on is the infamous challenge, nicknamed 420 mode, and how it's aged over time. I will also give a general rundown of how the characters work and the strategies you can use to beat them. YouTube channels like The Bones 5 have already talked about the frame data and intricacies of the AI in much greater detail, so check him out if you want something more complicated. With that being said, it's time we tackle the grandfather of the Five Nights at Freddy's mythos, 420 mode. So before getting into 420 mode itself, let's run down how the basic gameplay loop functions. Like I mentioned earlier, you are completely stuck in place for the whole game, only having the cameras to locate the positions of the monsters, and the doors to keep them out of your office. The catch is that the building has a limited power supply, as displayed here. The battery bars will increase and change in color depending on how many actions you're performing at once. The hallway lights, the doors, the cameras, all of it uses power. We'll get into what happens when you run out later. The game forces you to survive in 2 ways at the same time. Fend off the cretins using your resources, and make sure you don't drain all of your power before 6 AM. Every night starts at 12 AM and ends at 6, with all of them combined lasting for a total of 9 minutes. Each night increases in difficulty as the week progresses, and after successfully clawing your way through 6 nights, you'll unlock the custom night menu, along with 420 mode. Now that we've got the basics out of the way, let me describe how these Chuck E. Cheese rejects work and how to send them packing. In the original Five Nights at Freddy's, there's only 4 tortured souls to keep track of, 2 of which function identically to each other. Bonnie the Bunny and Chica the Chicken attack the player from the left and right hallways respectively. They can appear pretty close to your office on the camera, but not close enough to know when you should shut the doors. That's where the lights come in. It's the only way to reveal if Bonnie or Chica are outside your office. Shutting the door on them will eventually cause them to go away, starting back at the beginning of their movement path. If either one sneaks into your office, you won't be able to close the door on the corresponding corresponding side. It's an instant death sentence, with the game eventually forcing you to flip the computer up and down to your doom. Constantly check the blind spots and make sure to shut the door if you see them before anything else. The next contestant on The Price is Right is called Foxy the Pirate, who functions much differently than his friends. He'll always be stationed in Pirate Cove, starting by peeking out of his curtain, then getting ready to sprint, and finally running down the hallway to your office when he has the chance. You have to shut the left door on him in time, sending him back to Pirate Cove to start the process again. But of course, there's a caveat. Every time Foxy bangs on your door, he drains power from the building, and he'll drain more with each subsequent hit. The only way to halt his progress is to keep diligently checking his camera. Or so we thought. We'll talk about it more when we get to 420 mode. Last but certainly not least, we have the man of the hour himself, Freddy Fazbear, who is basically Bonnie and Chica on steroids. He can only travel down the right side of the building, but he's much faster and can pass by the blind spots undetected. Freddy is definitely the screwball of the group, as you most likely know the least amount of info on how to face him. The goal is to look at the camera that he's currently staring at and retain your attention there. He's a perv that enjoys when you look at him at all times, but since he's so fast, it's not a simple task to pin him down, right? When he eventually makes his way to Cam 4B, right outside your office on the right, you can keep your computer set on that camera and he'll be rendered unable to move. As long as you're on that camera specifically and rapidly check the computer every few seconds, it's almost as if he's not even there. The only other time Freddy appears to clap some Schmidt cheeks is when the power runs out. He'll strangely appear in the left hallway, singing his iconic tune. Eventually, the office becomes pitch black and Freddy dives deep into Mike's booty. But sometimes you can get saved by the grandfather clock, nearly avoiding ass rippage in the process. The time Fredster takes to kill you is random, ranging from a measly 6 seconds to a whopping 50. If you opt into using lots of power for the night, you're essentially banking on him taking just long enough to get saved by the bell. It's a very intense moment for sure, but it's best that you avoid this scenario if you can manage it. Now that all of the technological pussies have been explained, we can finally move on to the notorious 420 mode. The whole gang will have their AI levels turned up to the max, being guaranteed to move every chance they get. Scary, right?
Huh? What?
Hey, bro, come on now, dog. Come on, man.
What in the goddamn?
My disappointment is immeasurable.
Top of his head.
And my day is ruined.
Wrong! In actuality, the original 420 mode isn't the ridiculously high hurdle the community once thought it was. At the time, however, it was an insurmountable obstacle. Even Scott Cawthon himself deemed its completion absolutely impossible. This was later proven to be false though, as YouTuber Big Bug was the first player to overcome 420 mode, with Markiplier doing the same shortly after. The strategy they used revolved around making sure that the right door was always closed whenever it came time to check Foxy. They did this to make sure Freddy didn't get into the office, as not paying attention to him on the cameras would mean certain death if the door was open. Not only was the pattern for the strategy dizzying and easy to mess up, but it also used a ton of power in the process. Since you are relentlessly shutting and opening the right door to deal with Freddy and check on Foxy at the same time, you'd be using 3 bars of power for a second or two. It may not seem like much in the moment, but all of it adds up and could mean the difference between victory and defeat. Plus, if you just so happen to make it all the way to the end, only for Lady Luck to sweep the rug out from under you, it's devastating. I've had moments like that on easier nights, so I can only imagine how it must feel on this fucking beast. It was clear that the game plan needed some work, and lo and behold, there is another way. So, remember Foxy from earlier? The guy who you always need to babysit at Pirate Cove? Yeah, he's a brat, isn't he? Being the only character of the 4 to have the ability of draining your power, you'd think that Foxy would be difficult to deal with. When this game came out, everyone thought so, but as it turns out, he's actually a piece of cake. The idea was that you had to stay on his camera specifically in order to keep him at bay, but the truth is, you can stall him no matter what camera you're on, as long as the computer is in use. Checking the cameras every 3 seconds or so renders Foxy damn near obsolete. Fair warning though, it's not foolproof. Yeah, so this has never happened to me before. All of my 420 runs have been successful even if I don't look at Foxy's camera. I was definitely moving fast enough, so I don't know why Foxy killed me here. Maybe I was flipping the computer up and down too quick, maybe I just got unlucky, I don't know. Leave me a comment as to what the diagnosis could be. But back on track. So the pattern has now become camera, light, back and forth, only shutting the doors if Bonnie and/or Chica are in the blind spots. Okay, so Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy are pretty straightforward, but what do we do about Freddy? Well, needless to say, we've already won. The new strategy kills 2 birds with 1 stone. Now that we don't have to keep our attention on Pirate Cove at all anymore, we can shift it to Cam 4B and freeze Freddy for the entire night. Since Freddy is the only one who is particular about if you're paying attention to him or not, all we have to do is keep flipping the computer up after every light check while on Cam 4B. This, ironically, makes Freddy the least threatening out of the FNAF 1 quartet. Even if he moves and Chica takes his place, it doesn't matter. Freddy has to go on 4B to get into your office. He can't just teleport from the restrooms or the dining room, for example. And bam! The OG 420 mode made simple. You should be able to make it with a sliver of power to spare as well. I didn't even bother recording my reaction to winning, because I've done this a dozen times already, but I'll make sure my face cam and mic are on for the later 420 challenges in the series, especially for the next one, considering I've never beaten it. Almost a decade later, and it's pretty hilarious to see what was once a Herculean task reduced into child's play, and when measured up with the rest of the games, FNAF 1 has by far the easiest 420 mode. The ultra-hard gauntlet of pain that started everything is like taking candy from a baby. Go figure. At least the original 420 mode had its time to shine during its heyday though. Not only did it give new FNAF players a run for their money, but it also set the tone for the rest of the games. Because, believe me, the torture chambers that follow in FNAF 1's footsteps are not to be taken lightly.
Oh no.
I'm gonna lock myself in a fallout shelter.